I'm here to do a design team challenge for Gina B. Ahrens' stamps. I'm part of her design team. And this month it was to do an art journal page using some of her stamps. But instead of doing an art journal page, I thought outside the box and I decided to do a mixed media canvas. So unfortunately, I forgot to turn my camera on when I started the first part of the canvas, and that was collaging down pieces of papers and also using some of Tim Holtz's inks, re-inker thingies for his stamps, or not stamps, but for his ink pads. And so I'm showing you I'm explaining what I did in the background because I totally forgot to turn on the camera. And I used some metallic paints in the background. And so enjoy the rest of my process as I go through with this. And I'm showing you that I did stamp a old sewing pattern onto, I stamped one of, I'm sorry, I can't speak today. I stamped one of Gina Ahrens's stamps onto a sewing pattern, and I'm gluing that down, and I will show you, I think I show you somewhere along the lines of this part of the video, I show you where what stamp I used. Okay, I used only 2 stamps this month. And this was also a canvas that I put together for my giveaway to celebrate 1900 subbies. So I did this on camera so I could share with you my process of making mixed media canvases. And they're fun to do, and there's really no tried and true way of creating a mixed media canvas. A lot of people think they need to follow these so-called rules, and I don't think there's really rules. I think it's more important to play and have fun, and that's what art is all about, is to play and have fun. And so I hope that you enjoy the rest of my process, and I will be back in a little while to tell you the next steps. But right now I'm just adding the stamped image. So enjoy. Here I am going to start adding some more layers to this piece. So I think I came in and I'm starting to add some more metallic paints. These are just craft paints that you can buy at Hobby Lobby or Michael's or any of your, kind of art supply craft store where you can get the crafting paint. You don't always have to have this fancy schmancy paints to create your canvases. I always like to show, not just only using, the more expensive art paints, but you can get affordable craft paints and use those. They work just as good. So I'm just coming in and adding some more layers with paint, and so enjoy the process as I go along putting together this mixed media canvas. If you are new to mixed media and you're trying to put together a canvas or learning to put together an art journal page, a great way of adding texture is by adding collage pieces, underneath the paint, or you can add them, add a first layer of paint, then add a collage piece, and then go over it with paint. And that's usually what I like to do. Sometimes I'll start out with some pieces, which you can see up above in the very top middle part of the canvas. That's a piece of paper or book text or something that I put down above the printed image, the printed stamp that I did. And so I'm doing that in the lower right hand corner of the canvas. And this is a flat panel canvas. It's not your normal canvas. It's a flat panel. I can't remember the name exactly what you call it, but yeah, it's a flat panel canvas is what I'm going to call it. And basically it's canvas that's been glued to a piece of cardboard and kind of slightly wrapped around it. And usually they come pre-gessoed, but sometimes if you don't like the layer, if you want a little bit more grip and, what am I trying to say? A little more oomph to your to your canvas, you can add some more gesso to it before you start, but I didn't do that on this canvas. So yeah, so I'm on to the next part. Enjoy. All right, I'm gonna glue down not just some more printed pieces of papers, but I'm also going to add, it's like a wax paper that had print on it already, where I got it at Daiso Japan in their cooking area, because the Japanese like to make battered vegetables in the panko bread, which is breaded, just basically breadcrumbs that they use to fry up vegetables, and it's called tempura. And so this pink piece of paper actually has some writing on it, and it's actually kind of a waxy, not real waxy, it's almost like a deli paper but printed. And so I found those in the cooking area of Daiso, and I thought that was really cool and I would try it out in my art, and so I added that piece. So enjoy as I add some more layers of paint and painty papers and all of that jazz, and I'll be back in a little while. So I like to use stencils in some of my mixed media canvases, and this is one that I created myself using my Silhouette Cameo die. It's like a die cutting machine, and it does all kinds of other things. And so I created this, and so I'm going to add one of the designs. I like to call them like kind of funky flowers, and I'm going to add that to one of them to the house using some modeling paste. If you don't have modeling paste and you want to find something that's inexpensive that will create texture and more like a 3D like image, whatever, for your stencils, you can use spackling paste, which you can find, it's like wall patch spackle that you can find at your local home improvement stores in the paint section. It's to kind of add texture or to fill in holes when like if you've hung up a picture and you want to fill that hole in, you could fill it in. And it dries very much like the modeling paste and less expensive, and I've even found it at the dollar store of all places, in their kind of like in their hardware area. Usually they'll have an aisle where they have nails and kind of, tools and things, and that's where I found it last time. And so this time I'm coming in and I'm using actually a Caran d'Ache pencil, which I didn't realize I was using. I really wanted to use my Stabilo All pencil, but it did leave some marks. It wasn't leaving marks as well because the Stabilo All marks on everything. It basically marks on glass, metal. It is one of my go-to supplies that is a must in my kind of toolkit for creating mixed media. It's one of those awesome pencils that many of the mixed media artists use, and it's one of my favorites. And it does come in other colors. Comes in all kinds of colors. So if you can't find them at your local art store, try online searching for it, or if you have Amazon Prime, you can get it on Amazon Prime. So I'm coming in right now and I'm adding some glitter paint. It's made by Deco Art. It's part of their Americana line of craft paints, and it's like a glitter paint. And this is a neon pink I'm using, and unfortunately the camera doesn't pick up the glitter, but it does shimmer and shine on the canvas, which gives it a kind of a cool effect, which I like using. I love anything that glitters, sparkly, like, you know, diamonds are girl's best friend, that kind of thing. So enjoy. All right, so one of my favorite things to do is to use my fingers with my art. And yes, this is fluorescent paint, and most fluorescent paints can be toxic, and so you should use gloves or whatever. But this is a craft paint, and it is non-toxic. There is a label that is a safety label on most craft paints, because, you know, you can use it using your fingers and it's not going to really be an issue. But if you're really worried about it, use some rubber gloves or latex free gloves. I'm allergic to latex, so I have to find latex free gloves, and usually I go to the automotive store and get myself a box of the latex free paint gloves. I'm sorry. So this time I got the right pencil, and I'm using my Stabilo All, and I'm creating, I kind of like to think that this is sort of a tree house. I would love someday to live in a tree house. That would be so much fun, or at least to visit a place where I could stay in a tree house for a weekend. That would be so fun. And up in the trees. I would think it would be so cool. Or to have a art studio up in the trees. Wouldn't that be nice? And so what I'm doing to make the Stabilo All permanent so that it doesn't get pushed around too much is I'm going back over it with some medium, and this is the Antique Deco page by Deco Art. They create a medium that is kind of an antique look. It has more yellow tones to it. So when you put it over a canvas, it gives it a more yellowed look, kind of an aged look, and I like that look. And so when I'm completely done with my canvases, I usually go over with that medium with a foam brush so that it gets evenly distributed. And then I'm adding some more of that glitter paint on there and kind of pushing it around with my finger. And I'm just going to be adding some more layers. It's all about the layers that add the texture and the depth to a canvas. It's all about those layers, and I love texture and I love layers, and so I'm just building up the canvas, and that's all a part of mixed media, is building up the canvas. And sometimes people say, oh my gosh, you're covering up, you know, why are you covering that up? It was so nice. But it's there for texture. So enjoy the process. So in this section, I'm adding another stencil that I created on my Silhouette Cameo, and it kind of looks like one of those, oh gosh, what do you call them? I can't think of the name, but anyways, it's these tiny little, you know, circles that I created to add some texture, and I'm using some black Americana craft paint, and I'm using a makeup sponge to apply the paint through the stencil. And the trick is to not get it to smudge and smear, and I still have to learn that. At times I put too much paint on the sponge, makeup sponge, and it smudges and smears through the stencil. So the trick is not to apply too much paint to the sponge. So if you've got too much, dab it on something else. Have like a scratch piece of, you know, a journal page that you can wipe off the excess paint onto. It's a great way of creating another background, another layer. So enjoy the process as I finish up this canvas. All right, this part's one of my favorite parts. It's when I add some drippy drips to using my acrylic inks. I love using acrylic inks, especially the metallic, the shimmery metallic kind. And the bright colors. I love bright colors. They make me happy. Bright colors to me mean happy. I am adding some drips, so enjoy the drippy drip part. Alright, so I've got my Shiva oil sticks out, and I'm going to add some added layers to the house and to some parts of the canvas. And when these sticks arrive, they kind of have a thin skin over them, so you have to use kind of like an X-Acto knife very carefully not to cut yourself to get that skin off. And then it dries back over the skin. It's like an outer layer of the oil stick dries out. So if you have Shiva oil sticks and you've noticed that, oh my gosh, you think that they've dried out, they haven't. You just have to cut that little skin off again, and it's good to go. So enjoy the rest of the process of this canvas. I know I keep saying that. Yeah. Repeat. Another thing I like to do with the Shiva oil sticks is, besides the scraping into it, I'm using a gift card to scrape, you know, like more texture into the Shiva oil sticks. And then what I'm doing is I like to take my heat gun and heat up the oil pastels. It kind of melts it into the canvas. It's kind of a cool technique. It gives it kind of like an encaustic look, and I kind of like that. Alright, so I let this dry overnight. The problem with the Shiva oil sticks is that they do take a while to completely dry, so it's a good idea just to let the paint dry and come back and add more layers later. So a lot of times I'll just set aside my mixed media canvas that I'm working on and start something else. So right now I'm adding some of that glitter paint, this time in kind of a teal color, to my background to add some glitter and shimmer. And I'm going to be adding some more layers. And like I said, it's all about the layers. Alright, so I have a huge bin of crayons and I've been trying to use them up. So one of the things I have been enjoying doing is heating up the crayons using my heat gun to create some more drippy drips. But these are kind of a cool waxy drippy drip. So if you touch it, it feels really cool after it's dried. And try not to burn yourself when you're doing this with your heat gun, because the heat gun, the heat gun can get really hot, kind of like a glue gun. I hate glue guns. I've burnt myself so many times with glue guns. So just be careful. So in this section, unfortunately, my hand and my glue gun kind of got in the way, but I am melting some kind of a rusty color crayon to create some melted circles, and you'll see what I'm going to do with those circles in a minute. So yeah, apologize. I forgot to turn my camera back on, but I melted some orange, kind of a fluorescent orange dots and magenta dots onto the canvas. So what's a canvas without some splatter? Oh, I love my splatter and my drippy drips, all right? So my drippity drips. So I'm using a toothbrush, and in the beginning I didn't have enough paint loaded on my brush, so I had to load some more up. But enjoy the process. In this section, I did glue on a little piece of kind of ink dyed music paper, just a tiny little piece. And yeah, I forgot to turn my camera back on. So here I am showing you the 2 stamps I used in this set of Gina Ahrens' stamps. Don't forget to go check out her Etsy shop. I will post a link down at the bottom in the description box below to her Etsy shop. And you can find all of her stamp sets there, as well as stencils and other original pieces of art, as well as digi-stamps. So don't forget to go check those out. And I'm going to continue adding some finishing touches to this canvas, and then I think I'm going to call it a day. So I've added my finishing touches here, as you can see, and I'm going ahead and just kind of looking over the canvas and seeing if that's it. And don't forget to check out all the lovely artists that are involved in this design team challenge. I'll post links down at the bottom. And if you like what you see, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up, comment, share, subscribe, all that jazz, and I shall see you next time. Thanks for watching. Toodles. Have a wonderful day. Bye.